Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Ladybug Farm. We are standing in our future pumpkin patch. This area a few years ago was rough. We built our house and this was the driveway part. This directly coming across here was the driveway where all the dump trucks went across, all the construction vehicles, every day back and forth. This soil was already clay with a little bit of sand, but it was clay. Now it was compacted. We couldn't get pickaxes through it. We tried pitchforks. We broke them. So we decided to get some pigs. Last spring it was. They were big beastie pigs and they did an amazing job rooting up this soil. Over the winter we planted forage radish, we planted some field peas, we planted rye, and then we got our guinea hogs in here. They did a great job eating all that green, and I just started digging the soil to prepare for those pumpkins, and I am so happy with what I am seeing. So let's go check that out. Smooth like butter. Digging fork goes in, and we have wonderful, wonderful, nice soil here. So those pigs did an amazing job. They've rooted it up. The cover crops added some nutrients, and then the pigs added a little bit of fertilizer to it. We've also followed that with some chickens, and we've had chickens in here tilling it up. So I am super excited about this. For most of our gardens, we take a biodynamic approach, which also involves planting many things together in one bed. But that is not what we are going to do with our pumpkins this year. We worked on a farm a few years back, and pumpkins take up so much space, which means all that space where they're vining out has to be weeded too, or else those weeds take away nutrients from your developing pumpkins. So I went away for a couple weeks while we were taking care of this farm, helping with this pumpkin patch, and oh my gosh, the weeds grew up and the pumpkins were gone. There was no possibility of a harvest for the year. So in an effort to reduce the amount of weeds that we will have growing in our pumpkin patch, we are borrowing an idea we learned of through Living Traditions Homestead. They're another amazing couple that Jared and I follow on YouTube, and they use a woven weave fabric. And this is actually how they do their whole garden. But again, we do a lot more biodynamic, we do companion planting, and we are only going to be implementing this for our pumpkins this year. As you can see, we have a little line so far laid down of this woven weave fabric. I am going to go along, dig that out just to aerate the soil a little bit. Again, I'm not using a rototiller. I'm going to aerate that soil a little bit, add some of our compost that our chickens have helped to create. We'll put that woven weave fabric back on. We'll be burning individual holes for those pumpkin plants that we've already started, and Jared will be hooking up some drip line for that. So come along, let's see how we get to work. Not yet, but hopefully we will have pumpkins for Halloween. Yes, October is Halloween. So up here on the top side of the slope, it is a lot more compacted than down at the bottom of the slope where I said it goes in like butter. So I don't think we'll be planting pumpkins on the top side of the slope. I think we'll be putting in some sunflowers so that we can help use those sunflowers to further break up that hard pan. And I'm also going to use a breaker bar just to help those sunflowers get a little bit deeper as well. Here is our compost setup. Not anything super fancy, but totally workable for us. We just use pallets. That way you get a good cubic yard of compost. And we continually add kitchen scraps, restaurant scraps, and then we also pick up from families, and we put that in here. We do have a lot less since this spring because now we have guinea hogs and we've been feeding all of our scraps to the guinea hogs. But nonetheless, we still have extra. We put it in here, mix it with the bedding from the goats, and yield a pretty good compost. Every year we get compost delivered here from Brooks Contractors. They're up in Goldston, North Carolina. Amazing compost. And that's my treat as a birthday present. I get a dump truck load delivered, and at the moment we just don't have any. So this compost here on this side has been maturing for several months, so we're going to use that. And on the other side, you can see that we still have a bin, and that is where we are continually adding the kitchen scraps. So let's break this open and add it into the strip of land that we just tilled up for our pumpkins. Again, nothing fancy to put these pallets together. We just use zip ties. Very easy to put up, take down, and we also move these around depending on where we want the compost. This is actually the very first time we're using this compost in our garden. So here's the compost. It really could be broken down even just a little bit more, but since we're ready to use it, we are just going to go ahead and use it because we don't have any other compost on hand at the moment. Can you move your ball, please? Yeah, look right behind you. Let's go get some more. These chickens have already gotten to work before I can even come back for a second wheelbarrow full. Next step is to unfold this woven weave fabric. Again, we're doing that for weed protection. Unfold that, use fabric staples to staple it in. So off camera, we were able to dig out a second row, fill that with compost again, lay our second woven weave fabric over that, and then last night I went and placed blue dots where we want to be planting our pumpkins. Ideally, you want about 4 feet between your pumpkins and then 6 to 10 feet between your rows. So we have our space 4 feet apart, a little closer than 6 feet apart. We're at about 5.5, and then we did a diagonal checkerboard so that each row was a little off-centered, which when you do biodynamic, biodiverse farming, you're able to plant a lot closer when you have different patterns going on instead of just straight lines. So we are working on a third row right now. Our 2 rows that we already have, that'll be plenty of pumpkins for us plus enough pumpkins for the children at our nature school. So we are going to plant just those 2 with pumpkins, but we have some extra fabric. We're going to see if we can pull out a 3rd row, and I'm not sure yet if it'll be sunflowers or if it's going to be sweet potatoes or if it's going to be watermelon. We're still working out all those details. I am going to use a propane burner to now go into where all of these blue dots are. Again, I just marked them out with some spray paint and a measuring tape we had out last night. I'm going to burn a hole so that we can plant our pumpkins in those holes. Okay, stomp, stomp. Stomp, stomp. Now it's time to plant. We have our seedlings and we have our trowels. Our seedlings are about 3 weeks old. They need to get into the ground. We were actually hoping to get drip irrigation installed first, but Jared got carried away. We've been working on some other projects. So we have rain in the extended forecast for the next 9 days. So we are going to go ahead and plant these pumpkins, and that will take us until the weekend when he returns and is able to install the drip so that the pumpkins can stay hydrated throughout our hot and dry summers. We have 5 varieties of pumpkins. One of them is an heirloom white pumpkin we've gotten from Johnny's, and another one is a green Jardale cooking pumpkin. We've been saving that seed for several years. The hard thing about saving seeds with pumpkins is they just really need to be isolated, or you need to kind of self-hand pollinate in order to keep that variety true to its parent plant. So we are planting a bunch of different varieties this year, and unfortunately we will not be able to save the seeds. We've also planted our seedlings in peat pots, which is going to help with any shock from transplant. We can plant these peat pots directly into the soil. So when we dig, you want to get as little soil as possible outside of that fabric. Otherwise, you're going to get weeds growing in very minimal amounts of soil. So I am using our child-sized trowels, because they are nice and small. You can have 2 to 3 pumpkins per mound. Situate that.
One, two.
Two. Stick my hand right in there.
Cover it up.
And now they can collect some more nutrients from the soil and spread their roots deep. You do not want to plant pumpkins deep like you do, or that you can do, with tomatoes. Plant them at the same soil level. Ready to do the next? We have 20 more to go. Okay, let's do it. I love you. Pumpkins are now in the ground, and we have 7 holes that we didn't have enough pumpkins for. So we talked, and what did we vote on? What are we going to plant?
Watermelon.
We're going to plant some more watermelon in those seeds, because watermelon vine out and take up a lot of a lot of space, just like pumpkins do.
And the other pumpkins for the mama.
We had one pumpkin seed that we looked inside to see why it hadn't germinated, and we squeezed it and it squirted out. It was all rotted, wasn't
And we
it?
got it on mama.
So today we are installing the irrigation for our pumpkins and our sweet potatoes that Miss Shauna and the kids put in over the last couple days. It's been raining and I've been working nights, so I haven't had a chance to do it yet. So we thought we'd take a quick video of how to run the drip line. It's quite simple. What we've done is we have a main line ran from one of our other garden beds, and that's this line right here. And it's a real simple line that comes in a coil, and you can get the coil in anything from 50 feet to 1,000 feet. And then what we'll do is we will run our drip tape, which is this stuff. We'll run our drip tape off of our main line. In order to do that, we're going to use what's called a quick connect coupler that connects our main line to the drip tape. We use this little tool right here that punches a hole into the main line, and then we stick that in there. And the pressure of the water presses it out so that the water can't get out and leak. So I've already done one. We'll do these other two really quick, and you can see how quick the process is to actually run irrigation. It's not that complicated. So what you do is you take your tool and you wiggle the pipe into there, and you want to orient it so you know where the hole is going to be, facing the direction that you want your line to run. Hold the pipe in hard, squeeze that down and make sure it's seated well. And then I like to do it twice just to make sure that the hole is good.
I'll hand you that. There you go.
Thanks, buddy. So then we can take this barb, it's called, and stick the barb in the hole. And it should lock in there, no problem. And I can't pull it out now. And then we take our drip line, and our drip line has the blue stripe goes up, and that's where the emitters are. The emitters are inside the blue stripe, so it actually, the water comes from the top and then beads down around the outside. A lot of people think that you want the emitters on the bottom, but they clog when they're on the bottom, so you want them on the top, so that way they can self-purge or self-clean. And we're going to take this and wiggle it on here. And this just takes a few seconds to get that over top of the barb on the coupler. Once it's on there, you can twist that down. And then I like to give it a little tug to make sure that it's seated. And that's it. Now that's ready to go. And once we do the other side, we'll go to the other end and cap off the other line. So now that we have connected our drip line to the main line, obviously it doesn't run on forever, so you have to cut it. You can buy little end caps for these couplers like the other end, and it sticks in here and it seals it like a little cap. They're like $2 each on the website. And we've got a couple hundred drip lines, so that adds up really quick. So all you really need to do is crease the line a couple times and fold it.
It's right under you, Daddy. It's not.
That's okay. So we're going to take this and we're going to fold it a few times. And then we're just going to take a zip tie. And we're going to pull that on extra tight, and I'm going to do it twice just to make it extra secure. I found that one zip tie isn't quite enough, but 2 zip ties, when they only cost about 1/10 of a penny each, compared to a $3 cup or not that big of a spend. So we just leave it like that and we'll cut those ties off. And our drip line is now complete. So what we'll do is we'll go through now and put some stakes periodically to hold the line in place, and we'll be ready to water. Okay, so now we're gonna do our test run. I have a Orbit Beehive, which is a Wi-Fi controlled electronic timer for our irrigation. So all I have to do to start my beds is go into their app, choose the zone I want to water, for how long I want to water it for, and we'll see if this is going to work. It takes about a minute or two for the lines to pressurize.
I don't see. I don't see. Can you touch it?
Here it comes. Do you see it dripping? What a healthy way to water our pumpkins.
But it's not dripping. It's dripping this way. It's going to drip that way.
It'll go right down to the roots of our pumpkins.
It will take a long time for the water lines to pressurize.
The beautiful thing about drip is it's going to deliver this water nice and slowly right down to the roots and not get any water onto those leaves. Help prevent powdery mildew disease. So the sun is setting on our very last official day of spring, and already we are thinking about fall. We have our pumpkins, and here in the Sandhills of North Carolina, you can plant your pumpkins until the middle of July. So I hope everybody has a beautiful solstice. Tomorrow is the solstice, and may you enjoy your fall. And may you enjoy your fall harvest to come.